Hey, so today I'm going to do a video on what I feed my horses because I get a lot of questions about that, so I might as well just show you. And hopefully I can show you some of the stuff I fed Milo in the past while he was still really skinny because his diet's a bit different now. So I'll see if I can find what we had. We have a lot of grains here, so I think we should have most of the ones that I gave him. But there's some supplements that I used to have him on that he's no longer on that I'll just have to tell you. And I can tell you where I bought them from and what kind of stores sell them. So yeah, I'll get started with that, and I'll start with Milo, and then I can also show you what I feed Archie. So this is the feed room, and that's like all the supplements and stuff on the side, and then we have our grain in garbage bins so that rats can't get in them. So Milo gets, for his grain, he gets Rocky Mountain Crunch, which is from High Pro. It just looks like this, like little kind of cylinder cubes. And so Rocky Mountain Crunch is a pretty basic grain. It doesn't really add energy, and it doesn't add a lot for weight, which is what he needs right now because he gets fat quite easily. And he's also on some supplements that have good fats in them, so we didn't want a lot of fat in his grain. So he kind of more or less gets that just to slow him down so that he doesn't steal Archie's grain. Not really for like super nutritional value or anything. Like, it does have some good vitamins and whatnot in it, so it's good as an additive to hay and along with the supplements that he already gets, but it's not really to help keep weight on as much, and not really for energy. When he's in full work, if I find he's getting lazier, like in the summer months, I'll put him on just plain oats as an additive because they don't add any high fat content or anything, and they just help with energy. And then he gets Fiber Max. This is the Fiber Max. It's like beet pulp, but it has soy in it. It's just a good soaked feed. He doesn't get very much of it anymore. Again, it's more or less just to slow him down so he doesn't steal Archie's feed. Always need to soak it to avoid colic and choke, so this is the soaked feed. And then he also gets Alfalfa Cubes, so I'll show you those two. I think the brand is Alpha Tech, and the brand for the Fiber Max, I think, is Otter Co-op brand, which might be a brand that is just local to us. I'm not sure if you can get it elsewhere. So these are the Alfalfa Cubes. Some people do feed them dry, but I soak them because I don't want to risk choke, so I'll show you what they look like soaked. These are the soaked ones. You can soak them overnight if you're using cold water, or if you use like boiling hot water, they take a lot less time to soak. And then I just mix them to make sure they're all like coming apart and not still dry. So that's what he gets for like his grain, and I'll show you his supplements in a second. But for the Rocky Mountain Crunch that I showed you, he gets like a little half scoop. It's like a Jenny Craig scoop. It's probably less than like half a pound of the grain, or probably like a quarter pound of the grain a day, because it's quite a light grain volume. Like, you're supposed to measure with weight, not with volume, so it's pretty light. It's not like a heavier condensed grain, so it's probably about a quarter pound of that, whereas his soaked feeds would be a lot heavier just because of the water content. And he probably just gets a very small scoop of the Alfalfa Cubes, and with water his grain probably weighs about 3 pounds, 4 pounds. It's not very much, it's just mostly the water that adds to it. And since the cubes expand a lot, I'm not sure what the dry content of the cubes would be for him, but that's what he gets. For supplements, he gets biotin, which is in here, and Archie also gets this, so I'll just show you Archie's supplements too because they're more or less on the same thing. So both the boys get biotin, and they get that little scoop for each feeding. And then they also get flax, which is over here, and it just looks like that. It's ground flax, and they get that little scoop per feeding. Okay, so I do have one supplement that only Archie gets and not Milo, because it's pretty high in like fats, natural fats, so I don't want Milo on it because it'll add too much weight to him. And it's black oil sunflower seeds, so I'll just show you what they look like and how much they get. Okay, so they're just quite literally seeds. This scoop isn't supposed to be in here, that's just from me because I gave him some extra today. So yeah, they're just like bird seeds basically. And he gets a 1 cup measure per feeding. Actually, I think it's per day, sorry, not per feeding. Anyways, and all of the supplements are just really good for hoof, coat, health, and just generally have good things in them, like omega-3 and omega-6. So yeah, they're just good for them, and they give them a really nice shiny coat. And in Archie's case, the seeds also help add a little bit of weight. So Archie gets more grain than Milo because he's growing and he's also a harder keeper, but we are still trying to keep him fairly light because it's not good for young horses to be overweight. So I'll show you what he gets. So this is high-fat Step 8 feed from Proform Feeds. It's really dark. It looks like that. And this grain is also a lighter grain, so for his feedings, he gets 1 full scoop and another half scoop for feeding, which is twice a day. And it probably equates to about maybe a pound or 2 of food. It's not very heavy, that grain. And then he also gets a maintenance pellet because it has some vitamins in it that the high fat does not, so I'll show you that. That's a very small amount of this. It's more or less just to give him some extra minerals and vitamins that he can't get from his high fat grain. So this is a very basic horse feed. This is just very similar to the Rocky Crunch that I have Milo on. It's a maintenance feed, and he probably gets like maybe half a pound or a quarter pound of that a day, not very much. And Archie also gets some of the Fiber Max that I already showed you with Milo. He just gets more of it. And he also gets the Alfalfa Cubes soaked more than Milo does as well. So his grain per day is probably closer to 5 pounds, or maybe like more like 8 if you include the water, because the water adds quite a bit of weight. Okay, so that's it for grain, and then I'll show you the hay they get and approximately how much they get, and then also they have natural grass in their paddock to forage on throughout the day. So they live a very natural life where they can trickle feed like horses are supposed to. They're just supposed to constantly be refilling the stomach. It's not supposed to remain empty for large periods of time, long periods of time. I don't know why I said large. So I'll show you the hay, and then I can talk a bit about what Milo was on when he was skinnier. Okay, so this is the hay we feed. We feed like a Timothy local grass mix, and it's second cut, and they always have hay in front of them, so they're always getting fed, and they never finish one meal of hay before it's replenished. So we don't weigh our hay, even though it's always a good idea to weigh your food. We just feed them as much as they can eat. So they always have hay in front of them, especially through the winter. We make sure that it's just a constant supply of hay and that all horses are getting enough. So yeah, we don't weigh it. I can't really tell you a weight, but the bales are probably about 60 or 70 pounds. They're fairly heavy. And they're not 3-string bales. They're just like their regular square bales, not the extra large ones that you see with like Timothy and Alfalfa. Okay, so he's kind of dirty right now, and it's quite the crazy hair. So when he was skinny, he was getting a lot more grain, and we had him on high-fat grain like what Archie's eating, along with the Rocky Crunch, and then he was also on higher fat supplements like rice bran oil, and we had him on soya meal for a bit, and then he had orchard grass mix and also got some alfalfa throughout the day, and he was also on the fairly free choice hay, and he's very annoying. And what else? He got oil at some time, like just canola oil, and we just kind of tried supplements to see what would work for him to pack weight on, but we were also very careful about how much he got because you don't want babies to be too fat or put on weight too quickly, especially when they've been neglected. And he's also always either been on beet pulp or Fiber Max. They're pretty interchangeable, so he's always been on that. And lots of hay. The hay is the most important part because no matter what you feed for grain, if your hay is crappy quality or you're not feeding enough of it, you can't really expect your horse to look good. So you need to feed good quality hay and lots of it. Like ideally they should be on completely free choice unless they have severe health problems that would require them to have less. And it'll also reduce your risk of ulcers and other stomach problems like colic and whatnot. So stop it. So yeah, if you make sure they have hay or grass in front of them all the time, they'll be happier and a lot less bored. He's trying to bite my pants. And yeah, you'll just have a happier horse. He's so clumsy. His blanket's falling off.